Let's talk about the Premier League leaders. How does that sound if you're a Brighton fan? They've got up to an absolute flyer this season, 8 goals in their opening 2 games. We've seen a summer of big name and big money departures there, but it's not affected Roberto De Zerbi. Right, Mark, let's go to you first of all. Shall you be looking at the De Zerbi effect since he took over from Graham Potter? What have you seen?
It's been amazing. It's been absolutely brilliant. Roberto ball, De Zerbi ball, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely working. It's exciting, effective, entertaining. The team is dynamic, free scoring. And this season, the fans get to go on a European tour. Like you say, 8 goals from 2 Premier League games is quite remarkable. But how does that stack up in terms of the numbers? No question about Roberto De Zerbi's impact on the team. What does the data show you from his impact from his arrival, which was on the 1st of October last year? So you can see the goals, 69, which is 3rd in the Premier League rank. The expected goals is 70.1, which is top of the table. Shots on target, 220, which is also 1st. Possession, 2nd on 62% behind Manchester City. Pass success is 17.3, which again is 2nd, again behind Manchester City. And their 10 pass sequences, 563, which is 2nd behind Manchester City, which leads me to say one thing, Rob. Is Roberto De Zerbi a future Manchester City manager in the making?
Oh, now that's one to think about, isn't he? Does De Zerbi deserve it? Having looked at those stats over what is an 11-month period, I'm guessing that people shouldn't be surprised by the start they've made to this season.
Absolutely not. I think they were trending upwards towards the back end of last year. They've definitely been one of the most exciting teams to watch under Roberto De Zerbi. He's brought so much thrilling football. That vertical style of play that he perfected at Sassuolo before that spell at Shakhtar Donetsk has worked perfectly. I think there's a really nice balance of experience in this side as well, with Jason Steele, who's got a lot of experience, although he's only just established himself in the Premier League, Lewis Dunk, Danny Welbeck. And for a club that has lost Alexis McAllister and Moises Caicedo, their 2 best players arguably last season, to so seamlessly adapt into the start of this season, albeit against Luton, who have just come up, and Wolves, who are under new management, I think is super, super impressive. And one player I wanted to pick out in particular was Solly March. I think he's been involved in 15 goals in his last 21 Premier League games, which is more than Kevin De Bruyne in his last 21 Premier League games. So things have really, really clicked under De Zerbi. They previously had a reputation for underachieving their expected goals under Graham Potter. That's not the story under De Zerbi whatsoever. They can't stop scoring.
Yeah. Well, Mark just threw one out there, didn't he? The heir apparent to Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. Can you see that?
I mean, stylistically, it would make sense in some ways. I mean, Manchester City have become a more direct team since Erling Haaland's arrived there last year. But having said that, you know, Manchester City now are a much bigger club, than they were even, 5-10 years ago. They're treble winners. I think De Zerbi is yet to, face the kind of pressure that comes with managing a club of that size, the kind of media intensity that comes with a job like that, the kind of players, the kind of egos that you have to manage in the dressing room. I think Brighton job right now is perfect for him. He's come into a setup which was excellent under Graham Potter. The recruitment was already excellent. There's a great blend of youth and experience in that squad. Players feel very confident adapting to his style of play. I think he's got it made at Brighton. I think if there's, anywhere that he's going to go next, it might be back to Italy. He used to play for Milan. He's loved there. I kind of feel like before going somewhere like Man City or before going to somewhere, Real, Barca, Bayern, if they were to come looking for him, maybe there's another club in between that, a Champions League side. But having said that, if he can get Brighton into the Champions League, which, judging by the expected goal numbers last season and this season, you can't count them out of the Champions League race. So, I don't know. I feel like this is a question to be asked in maybe a year or two's time. Well,
I'm sure we will. Each time we look at it and go, this is an example of why Brighton are so good. But in Mitoma, are we seeing that yet again of how they managed to do this, Brighton?
Absolutely, and you can see it in his heirs apparent already, in Julio Enciso. Buonanotte as well also looks excellent, but Mitoma adapted to the Premier League so seamlessly. From the moment De Zerbi sort of arrived, he wasn't actually given too many minutes under Graham Potter. I think he only scored 2 goals in the first half of last season, but he's already been involved in 3 goals so far this year. He's one of 4 players in the Premier League to do that, and 3 of them play for Brighton, in Purvis Estupiñán and Solly March, the other one being Brian Mbeumo. But I think Mitoma is almost getting to the level of someone, say, Jack Grealish when he was at Aston Villa, who was worth £100 million to Man City. The only thing counting against Mitoma in terms of getting a mega move in the next couple of years is the fact he's 26. He took to football relatively late. He actually went to university and did his thesis in dribbling, which is an amazing, sign of how dedicated he was to the cause and how he's perfected his craft. I mean, just looking at this goal against Wolves, I mean, any Premier League legend of all time, any great Premier League winger, the likes of Thierry Henry, Ryan Giggs, they'd be proud of that goal, and rightly so. And for Brighton to have snapped it up for so cheap, loaned him out to their sister club, Union Saint-Gilloise, and then integrated him to the team at Brighton, just goes to show that they have a project and an idea for every player, and it's come off spectacularly again.
Yeah, at my age, I could do a thesis on dribbling, but it's a whole different thing. Mark, we mentioned Brighton's profits. It's not just the football side that things are going well for them in, is it?
You can't do that to me. No, it's been remarkable when you look at the way the club's run. I keep saying it on Sky Sports News and I'll continue to say it. Tony Bloom, the owner and chairman, is a football genius. The way he recruits players, the system he has in place, the fact that the club does so much work in succession planning as well. So every single player, every single person at that football club has someone that is ready to jump into their shoes should they ever depart. Let's take a look at some of the transfer work that they have done over the course of the last couple of years, and it just is remarkable reading. Of course, Moises Caicedo will stand out there because of the £115 million that Chelsea paid for him. You look at the profit there, £111 million, that's not bad. Marc Cucurella to Chelsea again, huge profits. We know Ben White was another one that was obviously headed to Arsenal for £50 million. He was a youth player that got actually released by Southampton. Some more great business by Brighton through their academy, which is important for FFP. You can also see McAllister going this summer to Liverpool, more profits there. Trossard the same to Arsenal. Yves Bissouma and Robert Sanchez, another player that's come through the setup there. So once again, that looks really good on the FFP balance sheet, and you can see the totals there. They've paid £56.3 million. They have generated 222 million. Quite remarkable stuff there for probably one of the best run clubs, not just in the Premier League, but in the world. It really is remarkable and such an exciting time to be a Brighton fan. Rob, I'll leave this one with you. Brighton have a bottom 6 budget and the lowest net spend in Premier League history. They spent more nights at the top of the Premier League table, which is 4, than they have done in the relegation positions, which they've never, ever done since they got promoted in 2017. It's been continued success for the club season after season, but could this be their most exciting campaign to date?
We will wait and see. And there's other players coming on that production line that you think could be sold for quite a lot of money if they choose. Evan Ferguson, I'm thinking of amongst those as well. But with this success, with this feel-good factor, with the excitement, with Europe, comes expectation. How do they get the balance right now by still going forward, but also keeping that expectation perhaps right-sized?
I think that is a battle going forward. I mean, Leicester and Southampton are 2 clubs that consistently sold their best players, and eventually the recruitment caught up with them. I mean, Leicester with the likes of Maguire and Chilwell year after year, Southampton, Van Dijk, Mane, Toby Alderweireld, players like that, and it is difficult to keep this success going. The good thing about Brighton is they seem to shop in markets that no one else really considers. Very few clubs were looking at the Japanese market until relatively recently. Brighton were ahead of that with Mitoma, same with Enciso, signing a Paraguayan. Very few clubs were looking in that market either. And even with Moises Caicedo, a young Ecuadorian they signed for £4.5 million, flipped him for 115 after about 40 Premier League games. It is just a remarkable period of success for the club. And it's just, they've gone about it the right way. There's not been any panic when You know, Graham Potter's been picked up by Chelsea. When big players have left the club, it's all seemingly so in hand, and like they've planned for every eventuality.
Yeah, but what is success then for Brighton this season?
I think a good run in Europe and a top 6 or top 7 finish, I think would still be very, very successful for Brighton. It's easy to get ahead of ourselves. It's easy to look at the stats and you know, rightly rate them as one of the best teams in the league. But the fact remains is that there are still a ton of other teams with much bigger budgets, teams that have strengthened this season. Look at the money that Chelsea have spent. We were talking about that earlier. You know, Liverpool are undoubtedly going to grow into this season as well. I think it's always, you can never put that kind of expectation on a club like Brighton, because ultimately, if the club are playing good football and they're developing great players, then I think that's where the joy is, right? And this Brighton team is definitely capable of going deep in a European competition. I think that squad has so many young players who are going to be so hungry in those early stages of European competition. It's hard to say what they should really expect this season, but I can't see them finishing below 8th. And if you'd said that to a Brighton fan 2-3 years ago, I think they would have been incredibly happy with that assertion.